the Gift Wrapping Training Academy. And you've often seen me create videos, and you know, I always use beautiful papers, and the really key for me is that I use leftover materials and leftover paper to create beautiful gift wrapping. But today I have a twist to my gift wrapping. I have a guest today, and she's not just my guest, she's a lovely friend, and she's going to show us how we can create a beautiful bottle sleeve. So it's going to be a wrapped bottle sleeve from materials. So before I introduce you to Jenny, I'm going to show you the products that you need to create this beautiful bottle wrap sleeve. So let's start off with what you need for your bottle wrap sleeve. So what I have here, I have some pins in this little beautiful pin cushion that Jenny's made herself, some needle and thread, obviously a measuring tape. As you know, seamstresses and tailors, they need measuring tapes. I don't use one, but today we're going to use a measuring tape. We have a pair of scissors. Now this is for material, so we don't want to cut the card or the paper with this. And just a marker pen that Jenny's going to be using. A normal pen, I have a piece of card to cut out the template for the bottle wrap, and we have scissors, and the scissors are just a normal paper cutting scissors. I have my bottle here, and I'm going to be using some satin ribbon, and this is where the twist comes into play. We have loads of materials, loads of material left over, so today I thought what we'll do is we'll sew something together. So we have an array of materials, and I've actually chosen this one. I love the colours on it, the pinks, the cerise, and I think it's going to really complement the bottle when we create the bag for it. So let me introduce you to Jenny Taylor. Hello. Oh, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah. So Jenny, before we move on to this fantastic project that we've been thinking about creating for a long time. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? People my audience are going to want to know.
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? So
well, I'm Jennifer Taylor, and I was a contestant on Great British Sewing Bee #2.
Oh,
so that's not
BBC Two.
Yeah, BBC Two. So that was not this year, but the year before. I was one away from the quarterfinals, which was really upsetting, but. I've then gone on to start working, doing workshops, been doing some bits for Create and Craft TV, been doing some actual talks as well for like the NEC and CHA UK. So things are really starting to sort of build some momentum, which is fantastic. And meeting you lovely self, of course.
Yeah, thank you. And it's great because I think I was the first gift wrapping expert on Create and Craft TV, I think back in 2013.
Wow.
So nearly 2 years ago. Wow,
yeah.
I don't know where the years are going. And tell me a little bit more about your show on Create and Craft TV. What are you doing on the show?
Okay, so with So Fabulous, I'm basically there to help give the viewers some new ideas to sewing. So I haven't got any products or anything like that I sell specifically, so I'm not there selling my products. I don't have products, but what I do like to think I do is sell ideas. So I'm hoping that I will help inspire people who are watching the show who may normally paper craft or, I don't know, do cross stitch, lean over to the sewing side, the dark side.
Because you run, what's it called, the Sewing Revolution?
Yeah, the Sewing Revolution. So the Sewing Revolution started when I received emails from 2 children that actually tracked me down on the internet.
Wow.
And basically said how much I'd inspired them on the show, and that they were making things, and they sent me pictures, and I knew I wanted to do something with the experience that I gained being on the show. And obviously sewing became such an addiction. I like to use that word because I can't describe it in any other way. I can't stop sewing. But the main thing for me is I wanted to get other people as inspired and geared up around sewing as I am, and therefore I made the decision to start running workshops. But what I want to really do is get people into sewing through, not by going out and spending lots and lots of money, very similar to yourself, Neelam, where use what you have. You don't need to go out and spend thousands and thousands of pounds on sewing machines and equipment and materials. You have things at home already. I'm pretty sure everybody has a needle and thread, and if you haven't, you can pick it up in a supermarket anyway. and a pair of scissors. That's all you need. You can take the clothes you're wearing now and make them into something new. So don't be afraid to take things that you would normally throw out because it's got a hole in, or take to the charity shop. Don't hold on to it, because we can make something new, like today with these beautiful saris. So yeah, I'm really excited about our little project.
Fabulous. So what I thought we'd do today is, as you know, I'm one of the leading gift wrapping experts in the UK, and just like yourself, it's showcasing your expertise. It's about nurturing your creativity, because I'm so determined and so inspired by all these creatives that I meet throughout my business and throughout my life. And the key is that you nurture your creativity, because when you nurture your creativity, as you know, Jenny, it just takes you and opens up so many doors.
It does, and I've had this conversation a lot, where I do think that creativity helps to give you confidence. Believe it or not, I'm not a very confident person, but through craft I'm able to be confident, to be myself. And I do think it's a vehicle of health. I can't put it any other way, really. So yeah, it is. Do not think it just it has so many more powers than just making beautiful things. It can lead to happiness and get people through some really dark times as well. Through my workshops, I've noticed that it almost comes to be some kind of therapy session, you know, where people feel that they're able to open out and talk about things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to talk about in any other normal circumstances. And it's a safe environment, and I think craft is a wonderful vehicle for that. So yeah.
Great. So what we'll do is we'll show everybody how to make a beautiful wrapped
bottle
wrap sleeve.
I know, yeah. We keep it, bottle wrap sleeve, wrapped bottle sleeve.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a beautiful gift item, which is going to come this wonderful bottle of Cava, which we'll be opening after.
Great, and we'll do some more chatting as we go along.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And talk about your workshops and other things that you're involved in.
Wonderful.
Great.
Wicked.
Okay, fabulous.
Great. Okay then, so before we get starting on this beautiful, wonderful fabric, we're going to need to take a few measurements first. So if you can take your piece of paper, your pen, and you're also going to need your tape measure. So first of all, if you can just take your bottle of choice and just place that on the paper. What we're going to be doing is actually just tracing the base of your bottle, just to make sure that it does actually get into our sleeve. So all I'm going to be literally doing is taking the pen and tracing it around the bottom. Now this doesn't have to be perfect, guys, it's just to get a rough measurement of how big our bottle is. So there you go. So I'm just going to make a little note that that's the base. Okay. And then what we're going to want to do, obviously because we're going to be sewing, we need to make sure that we're adding a seam allowance here, because obviously if we don't, we'll be making this too small. So I'd add roughly about 1 centimetre, which is roughly about that big. I mean, you can measure this out if you want, but again, we're not going for perfection here, guys. So taking your paper scissors, not your fabric scissors, just quickly cut around that. There you go. So as you can see there, it's very roughly cut out. Like I say, we're not going for perfection here, but it just gives me what I need when I start to put it onto the fabric as a pattern. The next measurement you're going to need to take is how tall your bottle is, because obviously we don't want it to be poking out the top of our sleeve. So I'm literally just going to be taking a quick measurement. So you can see here that we're looking at 13 inches, which is also 33 centimetres if you prefer to work in centimetres. So I'm just going to make a quick note of that measurement. So if I just make a quick arrow there, and that was 13 inches. And then the final measurement which we're going to need to take is actually the circumference of our bottle. So actually let's just bring that back in, it makes it a little bit more easier. So what we're going to do is just take that around. So again you can see there that's 11 inches or 28 centimetres. So what I want to do is just quickly walk you through the maths before we go any further. Okay, so the height of your bottle here wouldn't include any seam allowances, so you're definitely going to need to add 1 inch onto that. And the same with the circumference of your bottle. You're going to need to add another seam allowance on that, but I'm actually going to make this just a little bit more bigger, so I'm going to actually add 2 inches onto that. just keep a note of those measurements because you're going to need those later. And then we're moving on to the next step. Okay, so now we're ready to use our measurements and paper patterns with our fabric. So I'm just going to open this out. It's gorgeous fabric. So this is a lovely organza, and it almost has like a velour print on it, which is obviously I think why Neelam's decided to pick this beautiful cerise fabric. But this is going to be perfect, and it obviously complements the bottle as well. So you might want to think about that when you're choosing your fabric. But obviously if it's the bits that you have hanging around, I'm sure it'll work perfectly. So the first thing we want to do is measure our circumference of the bottle, which is the last measurements that we took. So this was, let's just get that piece of paper out. So this is the 13 inches with the 1 inch seam allowance, and then the same again with the circumference, the 11 plus the 2. So let's do the 11 one first. So this is actually going round the body of the bottle. So let's just quickly make that measurement. So obviously you're going to need a pen to make some marks here. Now obviously this is the selvage edge, so this is going to be nice and straight anyway. So if we just make a start button there, because you can see that it's slightly wavy there, so we don't want that wavy edge. And we're going with 14. So that was the, 13. There you go. So there's 1, 2. And then the next measurement is going to be the height of the bottle. Now we said no shorter than 14 inches, which is the 13 inches at the bottom plus a seam allowance. But because of the design that we're going with today, I'm going to be adding an extra bit. So now I can see that I've got about 20 inches worth of fabric. So I'm actually quite happy with that. So I'm going to leave that length on the fabric. So I'm just going to literally cut that out. Obviously you can vary the length as long as it's no shorter than the 14 inches. You don't want to be seeing the tops of your bottle. So just quickly cut that out. I'll just triple check that measurement. Again, you can see that I'm not being super precise about this. As long as you've got a rough rectangle, it will all come out in the wash. There we go. So there's the first piece all cut out. The next one we're going to do is the base, which is the paper pattern that we did earlier. Now I'm going to be a little bit more fancy with this because I really like the detail of the flowers. So I'm going to make sure that's in the middle of my base. Not that you'll see it very often, but if they were to look, there'd be a little detail there. So I'm just going to pick that one. That one looks quite a nice size. So again, I'm just going to quickly trace around this. You know that it fits because you did all of your measuring beforehand. And again, using your fabric scissors, just quickly cut that out. Just to quickly recap, there's the base of your bottle, and this is what's going to be wrapping around your bottle. Okay, so let's get on with the construction. So just move your lovely plumage out the way. So you're going to just need your rectangle piece and your circular base piece for this next step. So the first thing we want to do is really get rid of this selvage edge here, Neelam. So I'm just going to quickly fold that over, and if you do have some pins, it might be a little bit easier just to quickly pop some in there to keep it in place. So obviously, as I said earlier, if you have got a sewing machine, then by all means you can quickly whiz this up on that, but if you haven't, you don't need it. So I'm just taking a normal needle and thread. I've managed to have a little lovely pink colour so it matches, but if all you have is white or black, I'm sure that'll be fine because you're not going to necessarily see it anyway.
And you know, that's the key about crafting. Sometimes people want to be so perfect at doing creative craft. I always say I use whatever I have, whether it's the matching ribbon or not, because it always looks different.
It does, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously we could even go to town here where I'm actually sewing across, but we could actually sew in some ribbons. So I don't know if you want to do that while we're here. Which ribbon did you go for in the end?
Well, I was going to use the bottle green. I thought,
let's do that then.
Let's add it on.
Let's do it. Well, in that case then I might actually change my thread colour. so then we won't see the threads at all.
So how did you get into sewing?
How did I get into sewing? It was a wedding dress.
Okay.
A wedding dress got me into sewing. I was looking for my perfect wedding dress and I couldn't find one, so I decided to make one myself. Problem is, I hadn't picked up a sewing machine before.
Wow.
And so it was a scary situation, but very much a rewarding one. Oh, I've luckily got a little green piece, that's good.
So you made your own wedding dress?
Made my own wedding dress from scratch, so I went out and bought my own fabric. I actually made my own lace, which you'll be pleased to hear is made out of paper.
Oh, fabulous.
It uses a technique called paper lamination, where you basically screen print with fabric glue rather than fabric paint, and then you submerge your fabric into water and basically scrub all the paper off. So you have these really delicate paper fibres, almost kind of like this, really.
Yeah.
And it was actually on organza. So yeah, I did my own pattern and made my own dress, and it was very much the handmade wedding I always wanted.
So do you have your dress online? You know, we can put a link at the end of this video.
Yeah, you can see my you can see it online, but it's actually also in a book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, a lady called Inika Berlin. She's a textile artist, and because of the technique that we used, it actually made an appearance in her book. So my book is in a book.
Brilliant.
So all I'm literally doing now, as you can see, is sort of tacking these all together, so you know that it's in the right place because you've pinned in place. You can see there, pinned in place. But I'm also tacking through the ribbon as well. So I'm just basically doing a very quick stitch. So I'm making these as small as I can on the outside, but you don't have to make them very close to the other side, so you can go quite wide.
Now that's a great tip, because when I obviously my daughters are grown up now, but you know, my younger daughter her trousers, the school trousers, always used to be long because she was a little bit bigger on the waist, and I was always hemming the trousers. But I could never figure out how to make the stitch on the outside small, so she always had this big massive stitch on the outside.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all you're doing is just this is basically in a way your hem trousers, isn't it? Really. So this will be fine for this technique I'm using here to hem trousers. There is another way of doing it. I won't show you that today. Maybe that's another show. So yeah, you can see these are really, really small. You can hardly see the thread marks here, but obviously if you're using if you've gone out to town on this, like for instance if it's for wedding gifts, you know, you wouldn't scrimp on those kind of things, would you? So this would be the one occasion you might go out and spend a bit of money, but if you get matching thread, then you will not see these at all.
And then again, you just touched upon, you know, people, let's say for example if somebody's getting married and they want to create some nice little favour bags, they could use this technique from there.
Oh gosh, yeah, I mean it's completely universal. I mean, especially with this organza, it's so beautiful. You know, it wouldn't take 2 seconds to sew a little bag out. I mean, we'll show you within this little demo here how quickly it will come together. I mean, obviously because I'm hand sewing, it may take a little bit longer, but you know, this is a big size bottle, isn't it? Whereas if you're making little favoured bags, then you know they're no size at all, are they?
So I often talk about nurturing one's creativity, and I truly believe when I was working as a specialist lecturer with deaf undergraduate students in university, and I knew there was something bigger and there's something that I wanted to do, and I used to often draw when I was younger, and but you know, parents tell you need to go to school, you need to get an education.
Yes, they do.
And what I found is my daughter a couple of years ago was doing her GCSE exams, and her tutors wanted her to choose triple science, triple this, triple that, but give up her art.
Academics.
That's it. And I went in to see the teachers, and I said, look, I would rather she did her art because she needs to balance both her left and right brain.
Yeah.
And because she stayed with the art subject, she did very well in art. She used to do the art first, then the academic subjects. And I truly believe that because she balanced what she was doing in both creative and academic way, she was able to get all her GCSEs. What are your thoughts on people nurturing their creativity?
I'm all for it. Well, as a child, I was very academic. I took my maths early, 2 years early, in fact. But I was really involved in sport, dance, music, I did my degree in dance and visual arts, and I think it's really important that people have the option to become creative, even if you wouldn't necessarily see yourself as a creative person. But I also think there's a book that my husband actually talks about called, his name's Kirk by the way, called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it's basically a book that goes on to two different people. He's a school teacher. So there's a book that my husband often talks about called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it sounds a bit strange, but bear with me. Basically, it's a lecturer or a teacher, and he's faced with two types of student. And you've got the students that are very, very good academically, you know, always score really high, whereas you've got your other kids who are disruptive and don't get very good grades. However, when it comes to things like science, for instance, they could give, you know, all the mathematics equations to the kids that were academic and they could get top marks straight away. But if you ask those same kids to deconstruct a motorcycle, I think they couldn't do it, even though you're applying the same science. Where the kids that were disruptive and didn't get the maths could strip that engine quicker than you could click your fingers. And he was trying to get the idea of quality, and what is quality? How do you define quality? Just because you can get A star in maths doesn't mean you can't apply maths. And I think with creativity, you know, you might just think, oh, it's only sewing, or it's only gift wrapping, but you're actually using mathematics, trigonometry. God knows what you're using in that craft. So, you know, don't be too quick to dismiss your arts, because I firmly believe that you can teach your academic subjects through artistic skills.
Definitely.
So that's my piece on it. So yeah, I do. Not only do I think it's a great stress reliever, you know, if you, like I said before, you don't have to be a crafter to be arty. You can be arty and be a crafter. You know, it lends itself to each other. But I do think it gives you some stress relief time, and also just helps energise your brain, like you say, left and right hand side, and you can still learn, you can still get your marks in your academic stuff, but you're just applying it in a different way.
And just very quickly, in schools, you know, the home economics, sewing,
bring it back,
bring it back.
Bring it back.
I remember I used to sew.
Bring it back.
And I love, we're
sewing revolution. Please bring it back. If anybody wants me to come into their schools and teach sewing, call me. Seriously, I'm so passionate about it. I mean, touching on exactly what you're on, the amount of people I know that don't know how to sew a button on, and it's not a laughing matter. Like, you think, what? And it's like, probably your gut reaction would be to laugh, but it's like, that is really quite sad. So your cardigan, for instance, or your coat, your button would fall off and you'd throw it away. A perfectly good coat, I'll teach you how to sew the button on. Honestly, we can do this. Together we can do this. So I think it's very, very important that they bring back their life skills. They really are. They really are.
And you know, just touching upon that, I was watching the news yesterday, and I don't often watch the news, and there was an interview with a school, and the teacher was saying that the children in infant schools and primary schools don't actually know that potatoes came from the ground. They actually grew on trees.
No.
So they were taking them to the zoo. But again, that's hands-on. It's touching.
It's feeling, and it's understanding, like you say, the whole food chain, and the fact that the cows in the field are what are on your plate currently, you know, and all of that. And they've got no concept, and it's not because they're idiots and they don't understand. It's because they're not being shown, and you know, and it's simple little things like threading a needle. You know, it's not complicated, guys. I can show you. Don't be afraid to pick it up.
And if anybody's thinking, well, you know, picking up a needle and sewing, it's a woman's job, it definitely
isn't.
I left a very successful career to start gift wrapping, and I'll be honest with you, it was my laughable idea because people laughed at me. But I built a great business from it, and I'm so happy doing what I do. Every day I can get up and make a bowl, and I'm sure every day
exactly. Like most people are, you know, stuck in their office jobs. Whereas what am I doing today? I'm making a wonderful bottled grass bag thing. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be great.
Great.
So we keep talking. We're never going to get through it. So let's concentrate on this. So I've already just quickly show you there. I've already sewn it on. So there's the back, all messy, but the front looks wonderful. So we're going to move on to the next step now. Okay, so we're on to our next step now. So I've just changed my thread from the green to the pink now, because I'm actually going to be sewing the body of the sleeve before my cotton runs away. So while we're on the subject of sewing, just so you know, I've threaded my needle and I've actually doubled that over twice. Okay, so can you see that? I know it's a bit difficult on the black. There you go. So you can see I've got 2 threads on my needle, and I'm literally putting the 2 threads together at the very end. So this gives me a nice strong thread, and then I'm just going to be making a knot at the very end, like so. Okay, there you go. You can sew most things with that. So because this is the top of our bag, I'm going to start there. So I've put my right sides together. So this is the right side and that's the wrong side. You can see that's probably a little bit dull, whereas this has got the texture on it. So those are your right sides. So that's very important. So now with those together, I'm just going to put these through the loops there just to hide my knot. And then all I'm going to be doing is doing a quick running stitch. Now bearing in mind this isn't clothing here, so it doesn't need to be, you know, perfectly exact. You're not going to be wearing this. Obviously this kind of running stitch here you would not use on clothing unless you were just tacking it in place. You wouldn't be able to wear this bag. But it will be enough for us to make our sleeve with. So you can see that I'm just putting the needle in the fabric and pushing it out through the other side. Probably no more than 1/2 centimetre.
And you know, just looking at your, it actually looks like a sleeve as well that, you know, you can wear.
Yeah.
A nice ribbon on the end. It's giving me some ideas.
Is it? Oh, good. So I'm taking this nice and slowly. Even though I'm knotting my threads up, never mind. There you go. Or if you want to be super quick, what you could do is put this into the fabric and then just keep going along like so. Because of the velour, it might be a little bit difficult to do that on that. But if you weren't using this type of fabric and just using a plain organza with no detail on, there would be nothing stopping you doing the quick version. It's only because it's a little bit tough getting through that quite heavy velour. So you can see I'm halfway through already. So you can see the line of stitching that I've got there. So I'm making sure that I'm giving myself a bit of seam allowance. We talked about that earlier. Remember we said we needed to add the 1 on, so this is about 1/2 centimetre I think.
So what sort of projects are you working on? I know you do classes. Tell me a little bit about your classes whilst I'm doing my sewing.
So my Sewing Revolution classes I run quite regularly in the West Midlands area because I'm a West Brom girl. Although I am branching out to other areas as well, so feel free to check out my websites for any...
What is your website?
So my website is jennifertaylor.co.uk, so that's Jennifer N-I-F-F, by the way, because some people just spell it with the 1 F and can't find me, and Taylor is with a Y, but I'm sure I can give you the link later.
Yeah.
And all my workshops will be listed on there, but my workshops, generally speaking, are what I call sewing clinic workshops, where we don't really know what we're doing. It sounds a bit, I'm going to pay money and I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but that's the kind of point of it. It's all based around upcycling. So the reason why there isn't generally a theme there, like normally you'd go to a workshop and go, and today we're going to make a lampshade, for instance. Mine are very loose, and it's almost like a little sewing bee challenge, because I never know what people are going to bring. So I invite people to bring their leftover fabric, their clothes that they no longer want, bits from charity shops, it doesn't matter. Bring it along with maybe some ideas, like I want to make a coat, I want to make a skirt or whatever, and on the day I'll look at what you've got and see what I can do with it. So what's great about my workshops is that you've come along. Let's just say you come to one of my workshops, Neela, and you want to make a coat. But when you walk out of my workshop, not only will you know how to make a coat, but if somebody else is making a skirt, if someone's making a bag, you will walk away with more than just your item.
Yeah.
So you might not have made the bag or the skirt, but you'll know how to do it by looking at other people. Yeah. So there you go. There's our sleeve done. So you can see that's all lovely and sewn now. So now we need to attach our circle base to the end of our bag.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're on to our next step where we're putting the base of our bottle onto our sleeve. So you can see that we've got it all in now. It's very lovely. So again, you want to keep your right sides together, and in order to make this fit into here evenly, I'm just going to show you a quick tip. So you're going to need to have your scissors to hand. So let's work on the sleeve first. So at the moment it's laid quite flat with your stitched edge here. So I want you to make just a quick nip in that corner there. So there's your first knit. Now what I want you to do is bring those together. So you're bringing your seam together along with your notch there. And you're going to repeat that process. So you're going to add a notch here and there. So again, little snip. Doesn't have to be massive. Just so you know that you've got 4 even quarters. We're then going to repeat that again on our circular piece. So let's just fold that in half. And again, just add a little notch. There you go. And then you're going to do the same again here and there. So you can see I've already done it. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 even notches. So now you're ready to then attach this to your sleeve. So you're going to need to get some pins. So again, keeping the same rule as right sides together, this needs to go that way in. And you're going to be matching up your notches. So let's go with the seam side first with one of the notches on your circle base. If you just pop that in like that. And then just add a pin. Follow it round, and again you've got that notch there, and then you've got your other notch on your circle again. Make sure that that's in there, and again just pin. Following it around again. There's your third notch, and pin. And then your final one, there's the notch on there, there's the notch on there, and pin. So now you can see that our base is evenly distributed from the sleeve and the base. Okay, so now we're ready to do some stitching. So similar to the running stitch, we're going to be doing a stitch called a back stitch. Now this basically means that you're just coming back on yourself. So let me just show you what I mean. So if we go in from where we first started sewing, so obviously you're going to go into the fabric and out like we did down the length of our sleeve, and then you're just going to go forward 1, but then you're going to come back up through the hole, so you can see there. You're going to go through, and then back in through the hole you've just come. So you're basically sewing it twice, because obviously this is the base of your bag, so you want this to be strong. You don't want your bottle falling out as you're about to present it to your guest or whatever. So I'm just going to quickly continue this back stitch all the way around the base of my bottle sleeve. So then we're ready to get on to adding some embellishments. Okay, so I've finished my stitches now, and I've taken my thread off, which is great. And now I'm ready to remove my pins, knowing that obviously it's all been distributed evenly on the base of my bag. So let's just move that out of the way. So we're ready to pull that through now. So it's almost like a pillowcase when you've done your washing. Just need to pull it through the other side. And there you have it. There we have our bottle sleeve ready to be adding embellishments.
Okay, so now Jenny has finished the sleeve. She's sewn all the sleeve, and she's put the beautiful satin bottle green ribbon on the top end, so that's going to look really nice and ruffle it at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a beautiful flower, and I'm going to use some of the leftover material from our project, and I'm going to use some tissue paper. And I've been told that I have to do some sewing, so I am going to do some sewing in this video for you. So all I've done here is, let me just show you, I just have a piece of the material, and I would probably say that's about 8 inches wide, and I just want to just use it up, so it doesn't matter if it's really long or if it's really you don't want it too short, because we need to make a flower out of it. And I also have a piece of tissue paper, and what I'm going to do with the tissue paper is I'm actually going to fold the tissue paper in half, like so. And then I'm just going to just gently just pleat it back and forth. So I want to add a bit of element of wrapping materials and paper to our wrapped bottle sleeves. Okay, so once you get to this stage, so you can see that I've just folded it, also just have little folds everywhere. Okay, first thing I need to do is then just make a cut all the way across the bottom. Okay, so you have some pleats here, and you have folds here, and you have folds there, so it doesn't really matter which end. So what I'm going to do is just start to cut a nice flower shape, so just oval shapes all the way across to the bottom. So I just keep cutting. And I'm not being precise, I'm not looking for, you know, the exact shape and size of the curve either. So let's just move this paper out of the way. So now you just have like a nice scalloped edged tissue paper. So what I need to do now is I need to thread and just make a stitch all the way along the base. So I have some needle and some thread, and I have a needle here, and just make sure that you have enough thread to go all the way down to the bottom, because if you run out of thread halfway, we're not going to be able to make the ruffles. So just take your first piece of thread and just sew through. So all we're looking for is just a long stitch. Pull the thread through. So we're creating a little ruffle on the top. Can you see how the ruffle is coming into play? So although we don't want to be too rough with it, we need to put some force into it a little bit, and it doesn't matter if the tissue paper becomes a little bit creased, that doesn't matter. And that's going to give you my flower shape, so that would be the right end. So just to finish off, I'm just going to take the remainder of my thread and I'm just going to sew this in place. Now the tissue paper is a little bit thicker, so that's just to keep it in place. You could always glue that bit together if you didn't want to sew it. And I'm just going to finish off on the end here. You don't want to keep taking the needle through the same piece of tissue, otherwise you'll make a hole. Take the excess away. And you have your first element of your tissue flower. Okay, so what I want to do is, I have the element. I don't want to do anything with this just yet because I want to make my little flower. So the technique for making the flower out of material is exactly the same. You just take your material, but this time I'm just going to fold it. And I'm just going to take it on itself, so I don't have to make the cuts all the way down. I can just make nice heart-shaped cut. So that just saves me some time. Can you see? And then take your needle and thread. And you want to make sure that your needle and thread, you have enough in there, but mine's a little bit short, but let's see how we get on. And start making little pleats as I go along. But I think if you're making it for the first time, it might be a good idea just to ensure you have enough thread to take it through. In gift wrapping, it's always a good idea to experiment and try different materials. On our live gift wrapping courses, we always look at ways of how we can recycle boxes, how we can use the card to make some embellishments for the gifts, how to use some leftover material. So these sort of techniques are very popular on our live gift wrapping courses. And if you do want to look into the courses, just take a look at giftwrappingcourses.co.uk/classes. Okay, so right, I've come to the end of this now. And now what I want to do is just make my little folds. So I want to take this across so it gives the flower shape. So let me just, I think I'm going to make this a little bit tighter just here. Be careful not to break your thread, because if you break your thread you're going to have to do it all again. Start from the beginning. So just take my needle through. So what you need to do at this stage is you want to bring these two pieces together. So you're going to need to bring them across like so. And again, just like we did with the tissue, I'm just going to sew these two pieces together. So going everywhere. Like with any creative craft, it is just about just doing it and just trying it and experimenting. And it's amazing how sometimes your things that you're experimenting with are the ones that are the best things that come into play. Right, so just on the last stitch here, again finish off. And again, this is a perfect way to use leftover materials for, you know, you could make, if you wanted to, you could actually create something from this. You could make a little brooch, or, you know, something for your hand. Now, just one more thing that I have to do. So this is the back end of my flower, and as you can see there's a little bit of a hole there because the material is quite thick, so I can only take it through so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it together, and I'm just going to make a few little tacks, just tack it in a few places just so that it holds it together a little bit better. Okay. And that just closes it up a little bit more. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, before I double side this down, I'm just going to take my tissue paper and just start to bring the ruffles up. Just be careful of where you made the stitch. I just want to try and separate as many pieces as I can. So already you can see nice and full. This is, you know, it's amazing what you can use with just very simple materials, what you can create, should I say. This is lovely because you can actually use this for weddings, as decorations, to hang from ceilings, in gift wrapping, in anything. But I want to just add this as a flower to our bottle wrap that we're doing. Now that is beautiful in itself, and imagine using that as a topper on a gift. So what I want to do is, obviously I want to add our material, little material flower in. And the reason I ruffled it in before I put the flower in is because I wanted to ensure that it was easier for me to do. So take some double-sided tape, and you can sew this on, but I'm just going to tape this down. It's quite firm, so it will stick to the paper. It's in the centre here. And then just take your flower and just stick that on. And you have a beautiful, beautiful embellishment for your gifts and for our bottle wrap. So let's bring over this beautiful sleeve that Jenny has created and sewn. And I have some bottle green ribbon, which is going to highlight the green ribbon on the top as well. So it brings everything together. Okay, so that's all taped down, and what I want to do now is I want to take my ribbon, and the ribbon is the same bottle green ribbon that Jenny has sewn onto the top of the bottle, the wrapped bottle sleeve. And I'm just going to just fold that in half and just find the centre. I'm just going to take my needle and thread and just make a little stitch. And then I'm going to actually sew the plume, the tissue and material flower on top. So I'm only catching just a little bit of the tissue. Then I'm just going to take it back on itself just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And you can put a little bit of double-sided tape on the back just to keep it secure and give it more stability. And that's all it is, just one stitch. Secure that stitch. And so you have your embellishment now all ready to go onto your bottle wrap. So take your bottle, and what I've done is I've just placed it into the sleeve, and I'm just going to just hold around the neck of the bottle. Take my embellishment. So take your ribbon to the back and then bring it back forward again. And again, in gift wrap it's always important just to make a nice cut through your ribbon. And what I want to do, we have quite a tall plume here. I just want to just gently bring the material down. So the ribbon should be tight but some leeway, hence why we left it quite long on the top. We want to give it a nice ruffled effect. And just keep bringing your material down. And that's your wrapped bottle sleeve.
That was so good. Oh no, it was brilliant. Neelam really took me out of my comfort zone. Like, who'd have thought that I could take sewing techniques and put them into wrapping? Who'd have thought it? But so much fun. Thank you, Neelam.